Former Minister of Education Obiageli Ezekwesili has criticized the National Assembly over its handling of amendments to the Electoral Act on results transmission. She made the remarks in a public memo shared on our social media handle on February 6. Ezekwesili said lawmakers retained a provision that leaves the method and timing of transmitting election results to the discretion of the Independent National Electoral Commission. She argued that the decision followed the rejection of a proposal for mandatory real-time electronic uploads from polling units. To discuss this, we're joined by a legal practitioner and a member of the Labour Party, Monday Mawa. Monday, it's nice to have you around. Now, the electronic transmission of results is a major source of concern for many. What do you make of the body language of the Senate over this matter?
My brother, good afternoon, and it's good to be here. Sincerely speaking, it's a sad day for democracy in Nigeria. It's a sad day for all of us in Nigeria, because this is one opportunity that would have been able to put behind us the fear of our people in getting a free and fair election. Now, the question is this: if you have looked at the politics that were played in the course of this discussion, you will realize that the members of the Senate, particularly, because the House of Rep actually agreed that the transmission should be mandatory electronically, but the Senate, those of the upper chambers, they are not really comfortable with it. And I'm not surprised, because 90% of them have actually not performed in their various senatorial districts. And so they are aware of the fact that they might not be able to return back again if they succeed in giving Nigeria a free, an electoral act that will provide or guarantee a free election. Now, initially, when they were debating the bill, they said, well, we are going to give transmission. And some of us argue that if you say transmission, that you're going to transmit results. Transmission could not two different things. It could be transmission electronically or manually. That is the meaning of transmission according to every English dictionary. And we argue that just make it mandatory that the election result should be transmitted electronically. And then they went on the debate. And suddenly what we now have is that they have rejected the issue of electronically method of transmitting results, which means we are going back to the old order where INEC and their cohort can now sit down, write election results, and then give it out to Nigeria like they used to do in the past. And then they will now tell you, if you are not satisfied, go to court, which is one of our very close or used to slogan now. I mean, this is a shame. This is a disappointment to the yearning of the Nigerian people in order to have a free, fair, and credible election come 2027.
Monday.
I'll tell you one thing.
Monday,
yes.
Yesterday, Senator Abaribe, while clarifying, said that what was agreed and passed was to transmit, that is the electronic transmission of results and not transfer. But then the feelers we got from the Senate President was to retain the provision in the previous act that carried the word transfer. So when we're having these differences in reactions and responses and information that we ought to be getting from, that we are actually getting from the Senate, could the electoral bill have been altered at some point, like it was alleged with the tax laws?
It's possible. And I can tell you, Senator Abaribe is a high-ranking senator in the Nigerian Senate. And anything coming from him can be taken seriously, because he's no longer a baby. Now, when the debate was ongoing, it was agreed. But suddenly, what we discover now that they have sent to the president for asset is that they have removed the issue of electronically transmission of results, which is the key area of amendment, because without that, there was even no need for amendment. What are they trying to amend? That, okay, for now, that you should give INEC money earlier than necessary 1 year before the election, what value does that give to ordinary Nigerian man? For violating the electoral law from 5 million to 10 million, that does not make any difference to us. What is more key in that proposed amendment was the issue of the mandatory transmission of results through electronic means, so that we can all sit at the comfort of our home and watch the result that they are ticking in, just like we are seeing in the United States. You can, even in Nigeria, we are watching our results were being collected, the results were coming in the United States. And that was an innovation that we're happy we're trying to bring into our own electoral system. Unfortunately, the Nigerian National Assembly, particularly the Senate, have once again dashed the hope of Nigeria. And it's unfortunate.
Now, Monday, even while we clamor for electronic transmission of our results, you would agree with me that the United States is an advanced country. But then when you try to replicate that in Nigeria, one will still ask the question, do you think Nigeria has gotten to that place of maturity where it can fully digitize its electoral process? I mean, we saw glitches in 2023.
We can. Now look at what happened in 2023. They had already gotten the whole thing right. But for whatever reason, but don't forget, the money voted in to introduce beavers during the build up to 2023 election. They voted trillions of Nigerian taxpayers' money. And the reason then that Professor Mahmoud gave for that innovation was that it was going to prevent the traditional method of ringing, and that we are going to have a transparent kind of election system. That was the reason. But halfway, when the election was being collated, the next thing we had was that there were some glitches. There was no glitches. It was all a calculated attempt to subvert the will of the people. And that is why, after that election, the election petition that follows were so enormous. The Labour Party went to court, the PDP went to court, and other smaller parties went to court to challenge the results of that election. My brother, it is a shame that in 2026, Nigeria, the giant of Africa, is still saying shamefully that it might not be able to afford to transmit results electronically. Election is said to be credible if it is free, fair, and transparent. And how then do you achieve transparency when we will still have to fall back to the old order, where we now have to believe whatever INEC decide to dish out to the public as the election result? They have, the Senate, by their own selfish interest, have denied Nigeria the opportunity to have a free, fair, and credible election come 2027. If you ask me, there is no need we now waste billions of naira in going to election. They should just tell us that this is the person they decide to give result to, who is going to be the president in 2027, who is going to be governors of the various states in 2027. And they thought that we can save the money they are going to waste in the election. Because at the end of the day, I can assure you, there will be no credible outcome of that election.
Now, Monday, let's end with this.
2027 has been dashed.
Monday, let's end with this. You're a legal practitioner. What is the most sensible or civil way to force the hands of the lawmakers to create electoral reforms that reflect the will of the people? 2027 is just around the corner.
That is it. If you say you want to go to court now to do anything, I can assure you that case may see legal in court until 2027 come and go. So the people that are entrusted with the duty and responsibility to making law, which is the National Assembly, have the real opportunity to do that. Yet they have decided to, when they have decided to, they told the part of their own selfish interest rather than the interest of the entire Nigeria. And what is that interest of Nigeria? Interest of the entire Nigeria, which is to have a free, fair, and credible election. They know that if they allow for credible election, they will majority of them will not return back again. And that is the whole essence of this. Now look at what Abaribe is saying. We are talking about a bill as important as that. He's now saying that what they have brought out to the public is not what they all agreed on. Is that not a shame on us?
All right, thank you so much, Amonde Mawa, for sharing your thoughts with us. We know there's still recourse for the harmonization of the bill, so let's see what the eventual outcome will be.